So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time within 30 minutes. Now, let me remind this to you right at the outset. Look, we will be covering today's current affairs, all the important news items from today within 30 minutes. But just watching this lecture would be job half done. Just after watching this lecture, you have to revise this lecture as well, because revising would etch these current affairs in your memory for longer periods of time. You won't forget these current affairs in the near future, but provided you have revised them. Now, revision can be done from the notes provided by us. Now, these notes shall be shared on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this video. All you have to do is just click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the notes for this lecture. So 30 minutes of watching this lecture and another 20 to 25 minutes of revising this lecture. And in about 50 minutes time, you would be done for the day as far as current affairs are concerned. Your entire day would be free. Spend as you want to spend it. Okay? So this is the purpose of this lecture series. All right, enough of the introduction. Now let's straight away jump into the lecture, starting with taking a look at the topics list for today. Okay, so these were the important news items that featured in today's newspaper that we need to cover. Number one is electronic tracking of prisoners. Recently, a report came out of Supreme Court which says that our prison population has risen dramatically and overcrowding of Indian prisons has created a lot of problems. So Supreme Court in its report, not in its order, remember, in its report, Supreme Court said that we can give easy bail to these prisoners, to these under trial prisoners in our prisons, and we can track them electronically by placing an electronic tracker on their feet. Okay. So should this be allowed in India or should this not be allowed in India? Is this case an invasion of right to privacy? We'll talk about all these issues. Okay. Then second topic is related to BRICS currency. Recently, BRICS countries, like 6 months back, BRICS countries said that they are looking to find an alternative to US dollar. Okay, because US dollar is completely under the control of USA, and sometimes USA, for its geopolitical reasons, penalizes different countries. Okay, so we need to look for an alternative currency to for international trade. So they floated the idea of BRICS currency. Now, recently, Donald Trump has said that once he gets elected, if BRICS countries are looking for a BRICS currency, he will put 100% tariff on goods coming in from these countries. So he would penalize these countries. Okay, so we'll talk about this issue. Then, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification's Conference of Parties is happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So a report has come out which says that human beings won't be able to sustain themselves if land degradation continues as it is continuing right now. So we'll talk about this convention. Then small island states have said that climate change and global sea level rise would lead to destruction of their countries. So they have put a case in International Court of Justice. So we'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about design linked incentive scheme, a scheme to promote semiconductor manufacturing in India. Chip manufacturing in India, electronic chip manufacturing. So we'll be taking a look at these 5 topics. Let's start discussion on these 5 topics, starting with topic number 1, which is electronic tracking of prisoners. So on November 5th, President Draupadi Murmu released a report. The name of the report was Prisons in India, Mapping Prison Manuals and Measures for Reformation and Decongestion. Okay, and this report was written by Supreme Court's Center for Research and Planning. Okay, now this report was an overall report on the Indian prison systems. Okay, the Indian prison system. Okay, it talks about the problems facing Indian prison system, right? Now, the biggest problem that Indian prisons face is that of overcrowding. Okay, our prisons are overcrowded, and the reason for that is that 75% of the prison population is that of under trials. So there are 2 types of prisoners: under trials and convicted prisoners. Okay, convicted prisoners are those which have been convicted of a crime by a particular court. But under trial prisoners are those who are in prison, but their case is going on in the courts. So they haven't been pronounced guilty by courts, but till the time the judgment comes, they have been kept in prisons. Now, 75% of them are under trials in our prison, and this has led to overcrowding. Now, we need to reduce overcrowding for better prison management. So, one suggestion given by this report was that we can give them easy bail. We can give these under trial prisoners bail on the condition that we can electronically track their movement while they're at home. So, an electronic tracker would be placed at their feet, okay, which would track their movement. This is known as electronic tracking of prisoners, okay, and this goes on in USA. USA follows this system. Now, India is also, or Supreme Court's Center for Research and Planning is suggesting that this could be done in India because this would lead to many of these under trial prisoners taking bail, getting out on bail, and the problem of overcrowding of prisons gets reduced. Okay, now what are the benefits of this electronic tracking of prisoners? Okay, why has Center for Research and Planning suggested this measure? So there are three major benefits. First of all, like I mentioned, it would solve the problem of overcrowding. As per National Crime Records Bureau statistics, Indian prisons suffer from 131.4% of occupancy rates. That means if a jail has the capacity to hold 100 inmates, it holds 131 inmates on average in India. That is a lot. Plus 75% of these prisoners are under trials. Okay, and under trials shouldn't be in jail. Their case is still going on. You have heard this phrase, innocent till proven guilty. They haven't been proven guilty, but they are still languishing in our jails. So this is a big problem that can be solved through electronic tracking. Then it would also lead to cost cutting. Okay, NCRB reports points out that Odisha government has recently released some statistics. It says that it spends 1 lakh per annum on a single under trial prisoner. So a single under trial prisoner in Odisha jails cost Odisha's government 1 lakh rupees annually. Okay, now NCRB says that this cost can be reduced by simply giving them bail and putting an electronic tracker on them. That electronic tracker would just cost 10,000 to 15,000. Okay, so this 1 lakh per annum cost could be reduced to 10,000 to 15,000. So it would save a lot of money. And last, it would also save a lot of manpower of the government because a lot of human resources or government officials are involved in managing these jails. Once these people are out on bail and an electronic tracker is placed on them, then you need just one or two persons to track these people. Okay, so large administrative strength would also get saved. Okay, so all in all, it seems a good idea. Then why isn't government of India not adopting this idea wholeheartedly? Well, there are a few problems with this. Okay, like I mentioned, that electronic tracking system is present in USA, but many NGOs in USA have found out problems with this system. Okay, there is a organization NGO called American Civil Liberties Union, and it says that we need to stop this system of electronic tracking in USA because electronic monitoring simply amounts to incarceration, or in a sense it increases the punishing powers of prisons beyond their four walls. Okay, somehow these people are still in jail while out on bail. Okay, this is known as electronic carceration. You're not keeping them inside, but you're tracking their each movement. So this is problematic. Then cost of monitoring. You know what's the system in USA? If you are in jail in USA and you are taking bail through electronic tracking, that you're saying that send me out on bail, put a tracker on my feet, then the entire cost of tracking is put on you. You will pay for the tracking. Okay. Now, this is problematic in India if it is implemented, right? But the Supreme Court has clarified no, the government would pay for it. But still, it is problematic. Okay. And the third problem why the government is not opting for this electronic tracking system is that in July 2024, Supreme Court made it clear that bail conditions that allow the police to track the movement of an accused would violate fundamental right to privacy under Article 21. So this electronic tracking system is violation of fundamental right to privacy, and that is why we are not adopting this. Until and unless Supreme Court's larger bench says that it is not a violation of fundamental rights if right guardrails are in place, then the system won't be implemented in India. All right, so this is the issue. All right, next topic is BRICS currency. So look, for the past many years, many countries have been looking to reduce their dependence on US dollar and are looking to develop an alternative to US dollar. Okay, why? Because in recent times, America, using its dominance of US dollar, has put sanctions on various countries like Iran in 2012, Okay, Russia in 2022 because of Russia-Ukraine war. Now, USA can put these sanctions because most of the global trade and most of global investments and most of global reserves are held in US dollar. So USA can stop Russian trade because most of the payments made to Russia for its exports are in US dollars. Most of the payments made to Iran for its exports are made in US dollars. And that is how USA can control their economy through sanctions. Now, many of these countries are really troubled by this and they want to reduce USA's hegemony over the global financial system. Therefore, last year, BRICS countries said that they are looking for an alternative to this US dominant global financial system or global payment system because India wants to trade with Russia, but it can't because of these sanctions. Okay, China wants to trade with Russia, but it can't because of these sanctions. So this is creating a lot of problem. So BRICS were talking about creating an alternative system. But recently elected President elect Donald Trump has said that if you guys will do that, if you'll challenge America's hegemony, then we won't be friendly to you anymore. We would levy 100% tariff on your goods entering American markets. Then you can say bye bye to American markets. And that's a big threat. Okay. Now, I'm sure BRICS countries would look at this threat seriously because it is a serious threat. But why is USA so dominant as far as the global financial system is concerned? Why is US dollar so dominant that it gives America the power to sanction any country it wants because of geopolitical reasons? Okay, what is so special about US dollar? Okay, so we'll talk three basic facts about US dollar's dominance. First of all, US dollar is used as world reserve currency. What is reserve currency? So let's suppose India earns a lot of money because of its exports and foreign investments. Now it wants to keep reserves, which are known as forex reserves, foreign exchange reserves. Now most of these foreign exchange reserves would be kept in US dollars. And that is the case not with India, but all the countries of the world. Maximum of their reserves are kept in US dollars. So USA is world reserve currency. It is the world's leading reserve currency since World War II. Today, dollar represents 58% of value of foreign reserves that all countries hold. So 58% of foreign reserves are held in US dollars. RBI holds other currencies as well, like British pound, euro, Japanese yen, but maximum of its currencies, foreign currencies it holds, is US dollar. So this is one area where USA is dominant. Then 54% of foreign trade happens in US dollars. If you're buying something from Indonesia, you'll pay in US dollars. If Indonesia is buying something from you, it'll pay you in dollars. 54% of foreign trade happens in US dollars. That is why countries or their central banks keep dollar as their reserve. Because you need dollar, maximum of majority of international trade happens in dollars. So you need dollar. So this is dollar's dominance. Most of the payments are done in dollars. Most of the loans raised internationally are in dollars. Most of the investments done are in dollars. Plus, the biggest chokehold that America has is it has control over Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, which is SWIFT system. This SWIFT system, sorry, this SWIFT system allows for interbank payments. So, if an Indian wants to pay someone in Russia, it can pay through SBI to that person who has an account in Bank of Russia. Basically, I have an account in SBI, State Bank of India. That person in Russia has an account in Bank of Russia. I can pay directly from my SBI account to his bank account because both Bank of Russia and SBI are linked to this SWIFT system. So this SWIFT system allows international interbank payments. Now, G10 countries manage SWIFT system. And all these G10 countries are allies of America. So USA again controls this international payment system. So that is why USA can stop any country from trading because most of the trade happens or most of the payments happen in US dollars. That is why these countries were looking for change. In fact, after 2022, because of sanctions on Russia, India wanted to trade with Russia. India has a lot of trade with Russia. India buys oil from Russia, defense equipment from Russia. India was not happy with these sanctions on Russia. That is why India wanted to reduce its dependence on dollars. Okay, so that is why India took various steps. First of all, to internationalize Indian rupee, RBI allowed payments for international trade in rupees. So Russia could pay us in rupee and we can pay Russia in rupees or rubles. Then India also launched various tech initiatives. India is launching central bank digital currency. So it will be India's Bitcoin. Now, this digital currency would allow international payments without the need for SWIFT. Plus, India is linking its UPI platform with similar platforms in different countries. So people can pay to these different countries or in these different countries using UPI. So this is also something that would facilitate international payments, right? So India is coming out with initiatives which would internationalize Indian rupee and reduce its dependence on dollars. But I don't think that India would look for a BRICS currency because of Donald Trump's threat. Because Donald Trump has recently threat. I don't think BRICS currency is round the corner because America is still a major power and still has the capacity to inflict pain on BRICS countries. All right? Okay. Now we'll shift to third news item, which is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Now look, environment related news is going round. Okay, environment related news is cropping up in almost every newspaper. Why? Because COP29, 29th Conference of Parties of UNFCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, happened in Baku, Azerbaijan. Okay, another conference of parties is going to happen, which is called 16th Conference of Parties, COP16. But that is not of UNFCC. That is for a different convention called UNCCD, Convention to Combat Desertification. And this COP16 is going to happen in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, what is this convention? As you know, UNFCC was a convention to prevent climate change, to prevent greenhouse gas emissions, and to prevent global warming. UNCCD is about land degradation. Land all over the world is getting desertified. Green lands are becoming deserts. Land is getting degraded because of various reasons, because of deforestation, agriculture, pesticide, fertilizer filled agriculture, rapid urbanization. All of these are reasons behind degradation of land. So to prevent that, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification was launched and its 16th Conference of Parties is happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Now, just before the conference starts, a report was recently published by UNCCD. And what did that report say? The report said that 1 million square kilometer of land is getting degraded each year. And up till now, 15 million square kilometer, which is more than the size of Antarctica, has been degraded. And every year, million square kilometer is getting degraded. Okay, now this is a big problem. In fact, this report says that if this pace continues of land degradation, if this pace of land degradation continues, then human beings won't be able to sustain themselves, even if they prevent climate change under UNFCCC. So even if human beings are successful under UNFCCC, they won't be able to sustain themselves if they do not take care of this problem of land degradation. Such is a problem of land degradation. Now, why is land degradation or land desertification problematic? Okay, three consequences come out of it. First of all, land degradation or desertification would lead to malnourishment. Why? Because deserts are not good sources of food production. Okay, so if majority of your land becomes desertified, it would lead to reduction in quality and quantity of food. Plus, it would also lead to water scarcity. So, various water and foodborne diseases would become rampant because of poor hygiene and scarcity of clean water. Okay, then it would also impact biodiversity. You see, most of this land is getting degraded because of agriculture and especially chemical fertilizer agriculture. Now, these chemical fertilizers or pesticides run off to nearby lakes and rivers, which impacts the aquatic systems. Okay, so when soil gets eroded, these fertilizers and pesticides run off to the nearby water systems. They pollute those nearby water systems and lead to death of or biodiversity loss in various aquatic systems. Okay, plus this would also contribute to global warming. So basically, what UNCCD says is that if you do not take care of this convention, you won't be able to take care of this convention. Why? Because land desertification contributes to global warming. The reason is that soil is one of the biggest carbon sink. Soil absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But if soil gets degraded, it would release trapped carbon dioxide or trapped carbon from the soil, which would again increase the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which would again lead to global warming. Plus, degraded land also releases nitrous oxide, which is again a greenhouse gas, again contributing to climate change. So, this is a problem. Okay, so we need to be very serious about land degradation as well, along with climate change. Now, this report also pointed out the causes behind rapid land degradation. Why a million square kilometer of territory is getting degraded every year? Why is that? So there are basically four causes. Number one is unsustainable agricultural practices. Heavy use of chemical inputs, pesticides, water diversion are the foremost drivers. Agriculture or unsustainable agriculture leads to deforestation because land needs to be prepared for growing crops. It leads to soil erosion and pollution. Then, for these agricultural practices, you need unsustainable irrigation. This unsustainable irrigation leads to depletion of freshwater resources, as is happening in Punjab and Haryana of India. Groundwater has been depleted beyond repair in Punjab and Haryana because of rice and wheat monoculture, right? While excessive use of nitrogen and phosphorus based fertilizers destabilize ecosystems. Plus, it also, one of the causes is climate change also. So, I've mentioned that if land gets degraded, it contributes to climate change. Climate change also contributes to land degradation. Why? A report by IPCC says that global warming has worsened land degradation because of unpredictable weather events. Increased frequency, intensity, and amount of heavy rainfall and increased heat stress has led to land degradation. And last but not the least at all, this is one of the biggest causes: rapid urbanization, concretization of these spaces. Okay, land which was covered with grass is now covered with concrete, and this creates a lot of problems. All right, so these are the causes. Now, you need to have little more information about UNCCD also. Okay, before completing this topic. So, UNCCD was established in 1994. It is the sole legally binding agreement that links environment with land management. Okay, so remember, it is legally binding. UNCCD works with other two Rio conventions. Okay, Rio conventions are those conventions that were the result of Earth Summit in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, that was UNFCCC and Convention on Biological Diversity. Now remember, UNCCD's permanent secretariat is in Bonn, Germany, and in total it has 197 parties as countries, members basically. Okay, all right. Now we are done with this issue also. Now let's quickly jump to topic number 4, which is climate case in International Court of Justice. All right. Now, what was in the news? So the top UN court, called the International Court of Justice, took up the largest case in its history. What happened is that, look, climate change is a reality. And this climate change is because of global warming. Now, this global warming would lead to melting of ice in polar regions, which would lead to sea level rise. Now, sea level rise threatens the existence of some island countries, small island countries like Maldives, Mauritius, Papua New Guinea, Fiji. These are small island states which lie in low lying island areas, right? If sea level rises, then it threatens to submerge these islands under sea forever. So their basic existence is threatened. Okay, these countries would cease to exist if sea level rises beyond a certain limit. And the sea level is rising because of climate change. Now, these countries have argued, these small island nations have argued that sea level is rising because of greenhouse gas emissions, right? And these greenhouse gases are being emitted by these big countries. Okay, rich countries and also developing countries like India and China. Now, it is because of the emissions by these big countries that our existence is threatened. Surely, we are not responsible for our threatened existence. We are not responsible for this. These countries are. So, if these countries are responsible, shouldn't it be the responsibility of these countries to save us also? because it is because of their actions that we are not going to survive. So what are their obligations? What are the obligations of these big countries? Okay, they should pay us. They should pay us some compensation. They should also reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. There should be some punishment for them, because it is because of them we are not going to survive, right? So what is the obligation of these big countries? This is what is being this is what is going to be decided by International Court of Justice. Right? So these small island nations have been lobbying for many years that ICJ should look into this matter, and UN General Assembly then asked ICJ for its advisory opinion on the obligation of states in respect of climate change. So now ICJ has admitted this case, and it would give its advisory opinion on what would be the legal obligations of these big countries. Remember, the opinion of ICJ would be non-binding in nature because UNGA has asked for advisory opinion. It would be non-binding, but still, it has some weight. All right. Now, this is what this was in the news basically, right? But for us civil services aspirants, we need to know about ICJ also. What is ICJ? So let's talk about International Court of Justice. So it was established in 1945 by United Nations Charter. It is the principal judicial organ of United Nations, and its headquarters are at Peace Palace in Hague, Netherlands. So this is how Peace Palace looks. So this is Peace Palace, that is in Hague, Holland or Netherlands. Okay. Now, what is the mandate or jurisdiction of ICJ? So ICJ basically has two jurisdictions. First, it solves legal disputes between countries. These legal disputes involve international law. So disputes between countries that involve international law are listened or are adjudicated by ICJ. Then ICJ also has an advisory jurisdiction. It can give its advisory opinion on any matter referred to it by any United Nations organ or specialized agency. Okay, so it does only two things: adjudicates legal disputes, gives international or advisory legal opinion on any matter referred to it by UN organ or specialized agency. All right, ICJ has total 193 parties. India is one of those parties. So India is a member of ICJ. Now let's gather a little bit more information about ICJ. Okay, so what is ICJ's structure? So it consists of 15 judges who are elected by General Assembly and Security Council. Okay, the term for these 15 judges is 9 years. Every 3 years, one third of the court is elected afresh. Okay, it has a registry for administrative purposes, and the official languages of ICJ are English and French. Okay, now these 15 judges are also taken from specific regions. So three are always taken from Africa, two from Latin America and Caribbean, three from Asia, five from Western Europe, and two from Eastern Europe. Now, India's Dalveer Bhandari ji, Justice Dalveer Bhandari, is currently serving as one of the judges in these 15 judges panel of ICJ. All right, and that would be all as far as this issue is concerned. Now let's move on to our last news item, which is design linked incentive scheme. So look, a news was doing the rounds, especially in Indian Express, that 5G and Internet of Things chip that was being manufactured by Vizig Networks and was given 45 crore rupees by Government of India as assistance is not working well because of lack of funds. Okay. Plus, this chip manufacturing, this 5G and IoT chip that was being manufactured by this company, this startup based out of IIT Hyderabad, was also enrolled under Design Linked Incentive Scheme. Now, Design Linked Incentive Scheme is a scheme by Government of India that would promote manufacturing of electronic chips or semiconductors. Okay. So what is this Design Linked Incentive Scheme? Well, first of all, it offers financial incentives for designing and building these chips so that India becomes self-reliant as far as electronic chips are concerned. India is not dependent on imports from other countries. Okay, this scheme shall be operable for 3 years from 1st January 2022 onwards, and the nodal agency for this scheme is CDEC, Center for Development of Advanced Computing. Now, this scheme has three components. Chip designing infrastructure would be provided to these chip manufacturers so that they don't have to spend on machines for designing these chips. Okay, these machines shall be provided by CDEC. Plus, under this scheme, reimbursement of up to 50% of expenditure up to a ceiling of 15 crore rupees per application will be given to these chip manufacturers. Okay, so 50% of their expenses on designing a chip would be covered, provided it is not more than 15 crores. Plus, they would also be given 4 to 6% of their net sales turnover. So, for example, I have sold 100 chips costing 1 rupee each. So, I have made 100 rupees while selling these chips. So, 4 to 6 rupees would be reimbursed to me by Government of India. So, this is also there. Okay. So, these are the three components of DLI which would promote basically. Look, you must have heard about production linked incentive scheme. So, to promote manufacturing of electronic chips, government launched DLI. Okay. This is just I mean, not much is there to understand from this news item. You just have to remember these facts. Okay, just remember them, cram them. Okay, rote learning is important in this news item. Understanding portion is very weak in this, or understanding portion is not that much in this. Okay, so just remember what was discussed in this news item. Okay, all right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Please do not forget to revise these current affairs, because revision is important for remembering these current affairs for longer periods of time. By the way, if you guys have any doubt with respect to this lecture, please ask your doubts in the comment section below. I would be happy to entertain all your doubts. All right. Okay. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.